Well, I have 11:02, so I do want to get started. We have, quite a bit to cover. It's good to see many faces. I know a few responded vacations, as you might expect at this point in the summer. But I think we're expecting a few more to jump on too. But we definitely want to get started. Just real quick before we, I turn over the program to Wayne. I don't know how many jumped on to the webinar yesterday with Walter Bond, but if you weren't, it really was, it was good. A lot of good information there. But I think for me, there was really three takeaways, that, would help us, as we start to head into, the last 4 months of the year. And the first takeaway was, just mastery, continue to pursue mastery. I mean, we're going to be still faced with, some challenges trying to do business, maybe the way we've been accustomed to in the past. But one thing we can do is continue to learn, self-develop, get better in our sales skills and our business skills. So that was one, is continue to pursue mastery and prospecting, closing, making approaches, all those things. You can certainly continue to work on that. The second one was make 25 sales calls a day. I mean, if every one of us if everybody in this company made 25 sales calls a day, I mean, we'd be the largest company, in the universe, insurance company. So, but, make sales calls every day. I really liked what he said. He had all this stuff set up, and he did all these things for his business after basketball. And then he sat there and I guess waiting for the phone to ring, but, it wasn't ringing. He realized, through a mentor that, you got to pick up the phone and start making calls. You got to ask people to buy. And so that was the second one, make 25 sales calls a day. And then the third is follow-up, and we've talked about this many times in the past. You need to follow up that 5 to 12 times, and reaching back out and having those touches. And he gave the example, and I would guess if we all thought about it a little bit, we could all think of that where, we asked, maybe for someone to give us a quote for something, maybe work in our home or, just anything like that, to where they provided us, that quote, and then never followed up, never followed up and asked for the business. And we can have a tendency to do that. We can reach out, make a touch, have a contact, maybe have a second one. But the rule of thumb is most salespeople quit after 2 touches. And so, you have to get north of that 5 touches, between that 5 and 12. And Walter Bond talked about that yesterday. When you get north of 5 and you get in that range, your rate of success for getting an appointment, making a sale grows exponentially. So those are really the three big takeaways that I had from yesterday. So, so hopefully, I think that was, I think Melissa Poor said they taped. So if you didn't get to go in and listen to it, it'd be a good thing to do. And then the last thing is, speaking of mastery, tomorrow we start our 3rd FSCP course on the essentials of multi-line insurance. And so I know if it's still something you're interested in, even though we start tomorrow at 9 o'clock, our first class, you can get in on that still if you want to do that. So I know we have a few people from the agency. We have about 15 in the class signed up from around the company, which is pretty cool. It's good to get that feedback from others, from your peers and your colleagues. So we'll be doing that starting tomorrow for the next 8 Fridays. And we'll be all wrapped up with that class, before Thanksgiving. So that's it for all that. It's great to have Wayne Kutko with us. We were supposed to have Wayne and John Habaika, but some changes happened. So we're just going to have Wayne today, which is great. He's going to just give us some education and some updates especially on the IUL or specifically on the IUL and the single premium whole life. Wayne's a great trainer, been doing this a long time. So, get your notepad ready and to jot some things down. And Wayne, I'll just turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Jack. I just want to make sure the audio, is it clear?
Excellent.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to see what we can do here. I'm going to share my screen. Jack, you're going to have to
Let you do that.
turn that on so we can use my computer here. The technology world is pretty amazing. All right, so we're going to share a screen here, and I'm going to try to make it as big as I can for you. Everybody see this? This little,
Yes.
got faucets and buckets.
We got it.
So one thing I would like, about every 2 minutes, somebody just ask a question, because I want to make sure we stay connected. Every once in a while we get in these meetings and somehow a connection will get lost, and all of a sudden I'm talking and there's nobody there. So the internet world is great, but I need to hear some noise from you people. So as we're going through, please ask questions so that keeps me going here. All right, so what we're looking at is, this is a picture of how money moves through the Index Universal Life product. And we wanted to simplify this because looking at this, it can be very complicated. But the top faucet that we see here is premium coming into this bucket of money, which we're going to call accumulation value. And a lot of things happen in this accumulation value, and all of your life insurance expenses come out of it, as well as withdrawals and money from accelerated benefit riders. So this movement of money, I just want to simplify this picture. And we're going to start talking about an account called the sweep account. So what we're going to be going through are the different accounts that are in the IUL. And we're going to be talking about sweep account and the index accounts. And this sweep account is very important. This is where all premium comes into. This is where all the expenses are taken out of. So if we were looking at an IUL product, basically this sweep account is like a fixed interest UL chassis, but it is inside of the IUL. So your index money sits outside of this chassis. But we're going to talk about this chassis because where everything starts. This is a fixed account, so it actually earns daily. But you got to build this account up to cover 12 future monthly deductions. And monthly deductions are your insurance costs that you're paying each month for your life insurance. It's actually deducted from this account. But I have to build this account up first with money. And so that becomes real important. Understand the sweep account, especially we get cases that your client is paying a monthly premium. It may take 4 or 5 months of premium payments before we even build up an index segment, because we have to fill this bucket up with a minimum amount of money. So that's real important. And how many of you have sold to IUL and you've done a review of the annual statement with your client, and you see in the first annual statement that there's no index interest earnings? Have any of y'all experienced that?
Yes.
So it's important to understand this sweep account and that we will actually move money from this account to the index segment. Once we get enough money in it, then we start building our indexes. So this is called a sweep date. We sweep money out of the sweep account, and this sweep date is always on the first of the month. So all of our index segments have a start date of the first of the month. So right now we're in August, and our next sweep date will occur on September 1st. And so it's kind of a cool deal how this works, how money moves from the sweep account to your index segments. And so this gives us a little picture of what occurs in our sweep account. Premium comes in, we take out a premium charge, and then we also then in the sweep account, we take out the fees, and then we move money to the index segments. So this is a process that will occur for the life of the product. As long as your IUL policy is in force, there will always be some money in the sweep account for the life of the policy. Again, this is where all the insurance costs are deducted. So how does this sweep account, the sweep transfer work?
Hey, Wayne,
Yes.
quick question. Since we're at the 2-minute mark, what the 6%, that's forever too? The 6%?
The 6% is a premium charge. If you don't pay premium, there's no 6% charge. But if you pay premium, we take out 6 cents of every dollar is taken out of that premium. So let's say I reach a point, age 70, I stop paying premium. Well, there's no more premium charge. It's only charged when I pay premium.
So it's not deducted from your account value.
That's
then.
correct. It
Okay.
is not a monthly deduction. So
Okay.
if we go back to this picture, you'll see it says gross premium received.
Yeah.
This is where we take out the 6%.
Okay.
And then this net premium, 94 cents of every dollar goes into the sweep account.
Gotcha.
Now, in the sweep account, this is where we take out the cost of insurance rates and your monthly expenses. So when you get an annual statement for an IUL, it breaks out your charges. And if you go to the last page of the annual statement, it will actually show you every month's processing of all of your expenses. It breaks it out. Every minute expense is listed in that annual statement.
Yeah.
So, you know, I do some training sessions about reading the annual statement, how you review that with your clients, because I will tell you, when you review that annual statement with your client, that is one of the best experiences you're going to have in learning about the IUL, is reviewing that annual statement. So we may want to set another webinar up just talking about the annual statement.
I think you're right.
So let's move to this sweep date. So we're looking at September 1st. And when you apply for your IUL, part of the application is your allocation selections. What percent of the money do I want to go to the different strategies or fixed account? We actually have a fixed account option as well, but when I do training, I talk about, well, the sweep account is almost like your fixed account. So you always will have money in the sweep account. So if I'm buying an IUL, my recommendation is to put all the money that I can in my index segments. But in this example, we're showing an allocation of 50% to the fixed account, and then 25% to one index strategy, 25% to another index strategy. So whatever the dollar amount that's swept, that moves from the sweep account to this transfer will be divided up based on your allocation selection. And here's the good news. You can change your allocation selections at any time in the future. So we always get asked that question, well, how often can I change my allocations? And you can change them anytime you want. But, I look at the IUL and you set up your allocations. To me, you're setting these up for the rest of your life, unless something were to happen where we were to stop a index strategy, which the company could do, and introduce a new strategy. So that could occur. But this is how
Hey,
money
Wayne,
is. Yeah.
a quick question. How do you change that? Because I just had my first statement actually from a client, and we want to change those allocations, and
Okay.
there's nowhere.
So
So we're,
there's a form that allows you to change your allocations. Probably the easiest thing to do, you can go to web forms and search for allocation changes, and you can find the
okay.
administrative form or call field support, and they can send you one, and that allows you to change your allocations. So there's a form to
Thank
do
you.
that. Then you would just
Thank you.
send that to Life Insurance Services, and they can process that change. All right. We're going to now start looking at our crediting options in our signature performance IUL. And this little chart shows you the five crediting options. And this arrow is the amount of risk and potential returns. And you'll see the fixed rate has the least amount of risk. And then you'll see we have what's called an uncapped strategy that probably has the most amount of risk. So this little chart, this risk factor, is kind of based on what the average returns are. And it's kind of interesting. You get to running illustrations. There's a one-page chart in the illustration for the IUL that shows the past 20-year performance of the S&P. And then it shows how each of our index strategies would have performed based on that actual return on past history. So it's a very interesting chart. It's really very helpful in helping your prospects determine, where do I want to put my money? So, but this little chart is kind of interesting. And when you see there's a multiplier and a multiplier plus, these are our two new index strategies with this multiplier. And we're going to go into detail how each of these strategies work. So that's what we're going to spend. It'll be about 20 minutes to go through this demonstration. And I've actually updated this PowerPoint, I put in what our current caps and costs and things that are in these strategies. So what we're going to look at is actually based on what we're currently charging here in August. So here's the fixed rate strategy. Very simple. It's got a minimum guarantee interest rate of 2%. And here's an example of how this strategy works. Our current interest rate is 3.5%. This is also the interest rate that's used in our sweep account. So the sweep account has the same functionality. So in this example, I've got 100,000 in the fixed account. And at the end of the 1-year period, I'm going to earn 3.5% interest. So my ending value is 103,500. So this is very simple. Now notice there's no expenses taken out of this account. And that's because our life insurance expenses are taken out of the sweep account. So everything that we're going to be looking at in these crediting options, there's no life insurance expenses taken out. But if I were to reach a point and I stop paying premium, money still has to go to that sweep account. So we may reach a point where some money would move from your accounts back to the sweep account to cover cost even when you stop paying premium. But as you're paying premium, that premium is filling up the sweep account and then filling up our crediting options. So the net return's 3.5. And so that was pretty simple there. Now I want to start with our index strategies. And this one is titled 1 Year Point to Point with a Cap and Zero Floor.
Hey,
This is
Wayne.
our, yeah.
Yeah, it's check. I mean, and maybe you did that on purpose. You skipped over a PowerPoint pretty quick, but if you could just
Yeah,
go
that's
back.
not much. I mean, this is about conservative.
No, right. But I just want people to see that because that's one of the things I just want kind of everybody to get an understanding of when is it appropriate, when do you use these options? So just, that's all. So real quick, fixed options when best
Yeah.
time if your client has a conservative outlook. So that's good enough. So
Yeah, no, it is. And the fixed account is more conservative than the index strategies.
right.
Our index strategies are conservative as well. This is not an investment. One of the things you're going to see, we're going to be seeing formulas, mathematical formulas as we go through this. So really our index strategies are mathematical formulas to calculate a crediting interest rate. And that may seem, well, that's weird. We're using math for our index strategies. The answer is yes. There's a lot of math involved here. And so, this is one of the things that the index universal life is not a investment in the market.
Right.
And so you do not need a securities license to sell index products. These index crediting options are mathematical formulas used along with the performance of the S&P 500. So the fixed account is the most conservative of our 5 options. It's kind of interesting. Remember that little chart? Because it's the most conservative, the odds are it has the lowest return for you. Even though I understand none of that's guaranteed. So let's look at our index strategy. Our most popular strategy is capped with a zero floor. It's called the value cap. This index strategy is our oldest strategy. We started Index Universal Life back in 2009. And this was our only strategy that we had available with that first product that was called the Anico IUL. And so we've added a few more strategies to our product line. And so this strategy uses a 100% participation rate. You're going to see that in our life insurance product, all of the index strategies have a 100% participation rate. If you go to our indexed annuity, we have some different index strategies that have a different participation rate that can be less than 100. But understand in our life insurance, the IUL, all the participation rates are at 100%. And that means you get to use the full S&P return in the mathematical formula. So this strategy has a cap. American National sets the cap. Our cap has been as high as 14%. So since 2009, the cap started, we introduced at 11.5, went up to 12, went up to 13, went up to 14, and then we've come back down. And we're going to go through a little section that kind of explains why the caps change, what causes the caps to change. So we are going to cover that at the end of this presentation. Notice it says the cap is subject to change. Participation rate and the floor will never change. And this strategy has a floor of 0, which means I cannot lose money because of the change in the index value. So let's look at an actual loss in the S&P of 10%. Our current cap's 9.5%. So because of the loss and we have a floor of 0, our calculation is going to use 0. So 0 crediting rate, and our beginning value is 100,000. Our ending value is 100,000. I did not lose any money because of the loss in the S&P. So in this index strategy, that 0 floor is very powerful. So you notice there's a little guide here in this chart, highlights the zero floor. So we're going to, let's go and look at a positive return. And in this return, we're looking at a 30% S&P growth. And because we have a cap of 9.5%, that 30%, we can only use the 9.5% in our formula. So we're going to take our beginning value times the 9.5%, and that gives me a net return of 9.5. So during this 1 year period, I grew my money at 9.5% interest. And so any returns greater than 9.5, we cap it at 9.5. So we're going to now move to our next most popular strategy called the uncapped strategy with an interest rate spread. Now, remember the value cap? We actually have a cap of 9.5. In this uncapped.
Wayne, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the 9.5, the cap. I mean, does that change every year? Does that change monthly?
It could change monthly. American National could change it at any time.
So I apply and I get the policy, say in August. Is that the cap that's locked in?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So if the policy is issued this month, what would be the earliest date you could actually build an index segment? What would that date be? And let's say somebody pays an annual premium.
The same date next year?
No. So that sweep account, we have what's called the sweep date. If somebody pays an annual premium, they're going to fill up the minimum amount that's needed to fill up that sweep account. If you pay monthly premiums, it may take several monthly premiums before you actually build an index segment. So what you're illustrating today, this 9.5%, could be different come September 1st, which would be the first date that you could actually build an index segment. That rate could go up, that rate could go down. So understand what you illustrate doesn't necessarily mean that's the cap that you're going to get on your index strategy when it actually builds an index segment. So we're talking about an illustration. Understand after that policy is issued, 1 day later, that illustration could change. It can always change. So you got to understand that you're not locking anything in. Other than here's where we're at for the month of August. If you had an index strategy that was set up on August the 1st, this is what you got. September 1st could be different. They can change.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go to this uncapped with an interest rate spread. And this strategy has a zero floor. And so with this strategy, American National is going to take the S&P return and then reduce it by the interest rate spread. And so it is a simple formula. And we're going to look at our formula. In this example, the S&P has a 30% S&P return. Our interest rate spread right now is 7.75. This is a rate that if it goes up, that's bad. We want this to be as low as it can. When we started this strategy, the spread was 4.75. And 2 months ago, it went up to 7. And then last month, 2 months, it went up to 7.75. So this spread is at the highest it's ever been. So let's see how this works in our math formula. So there's no cap with this index strategy. So we have a 30% return, and we're going to take that 30% return and reduce it by the 7.75 interest rate spread, which gives us a crediting rate of 22.25%. So we're going to take our value of 100,000 times the 22 and a quarter gives me an ending value of 122,000. So in this 1 year period, I grew my account by 22.25% interest. Holy smokes. This is a heck of a deal if the S&P has a very high growth rate. And it's kind of interesting. We go back and look at that 20-year history in our illustration and look at how many years did we have large S&P growth. When I say large, I mean 20% or greater. This index strategy is designed for these large S&P returns. That's a lot of interest earnings in a 1 year period for an interest sensitive life product. Pretty amazing. Now, let's look at some downsides of this strategy. Here's a negative. This means the S&P lost 30%. We have an interest rate spread of 7.75. But here's the best part. There is a floor of 0. So even though the S&P went down 30%, the crediting rate is 0. 0 crediting rate means I earn no interest. So you cannot have a negative return with this strategy. So even though the S&P goes down, I never have a loss. I earn 0 interest. That's a pretty cool deal. Now, I want to just kind of point out this interest rate spread. If the S&P returned 7.75% or less during the 1 year period, I'm going to earn 0 interest. So in this strategy, that 7% return area, which sounds pretty dang good, I would earn 0 interest with this strategy because we're going to take the S&P return minus the interest rate spread. So this gets into a discussion that goes, well, 7-8% returns are pretty nice returns in an interest rate product. I get 0 with that under this strategy. So maybe I should mix some of my allocations into multiple strategies because based on the math, each one of our index strategies are really designed for different S&P returns. This index strategy is designed for that large S&P return. So that becomes your, things you think about with these math formulas here on these index strategies.
Wayne?
Yeah.
Why the increase so much on that spread? I mean, what has made that go from 4.75 to 7 to 7.75?
A lot of money is coming into this index strategy. Big dollars. Our top IUL life producer, he's already got $500,000 of premium this year from our career life side, Jim Hintz. He puts 100% of the money into this interest rate spread. We can blame Jim Hintz that, hey, you're putting all the money in this account and the company's going, whoa, this is hitting us. It doesn't take long, a lot of math to understand if we credit 22% interest every year, are we making any money from our investments on that, Dave?
I guess my question is, are you eating that 22%, or is that somebody?
No, understand there are fees in the IUL. One of the questions came up, that 6% load. That 6% load helps us do some things that we normally don't do. If you were to compare our caps and our index strategies to the annuity, the indexed annuity, you'll say, well, why is the life insurance so much higher on everything? Well, we have fees in the life insurance. There are no fees in the annuities. So we can't afford to have higher caps in the annuities because there are no fees. The fees help us in the IUL in having higher caps. So, you know, that 7.75 with that 30% return, you know, is still a heck of a deal. Let's look at that real quick.
I do want to say this, though, too, Wayne. I do not know of another company that has an uncapped. It's very hard to find those. I'm sure there are some. So
Yeah,
this
there
is,
are like 4 or 5 companies. So understand that's one of the great things that we have with our life products, in that with our brokerage side, we do a lot of competitive analysis. The downside is understanding that American National is a very conservative company. Their companies are doing that. American National said, we're not taking that risk. So as a conservative company, and in the IUL world, we're a conservative company, we have some pretty good index strategies that are available in the IUL product. And so, yeah, and this is one of them. Okay. You guys still hear me? I just got
Yep,
a note.
we're good. We're good. Yep.
All right. So let's move on to the
Wayne, I'm
multiple.
sorry. Hey,
No,
Wayne,
go ahead.
real quick. How are you, buddy?
Good.
What's the max that spread can go up to?
I have no idea. I don't think there's a max because it's uncapped. And so understand the company changes that spread.
Right.
I'm not aware of a maximum on that spread. So,
and that spread, Wayne, is not guaranteed. It's if I purchased a contract at 4.75 and 6 months later, you up it to 7.75, or am I locked in at the 4.75?
well,
Because
if you built your index strategy when it was at 4.75, it's going to stay that 4.75 until it reaches the end of its 1-year period.
Okay.
And
great,
whatever
thank
the
you.
spread is at the end of that 1-year period, it could change. But let's say I'm paying a monthly premium and I bought this IUL back in November, and I've got index segments at 4.75. I may have an index segment at 7. I may have one at 7.75. I can have multiple index segments. If I'm paying a monthly premium, I'm going to end up with 12 different index segments for this one strategy. And I could have different rates in those buckets. Okay. All right. Any more questions on multipliers? Excuse me, on the uncapped? All right, so let's move on to the multipliers. These are new strategies that were added to the signature performance. So this is a difference from the signature IUL to the signature performance is these new index strategies. But we also had another change. The performance has the new mortality table. So we had a mortality table change and the multipliers. So we're going to look at I call it the low multiplier. And what's special about this strategy is that we have a multiplier factor, and it's 24%. You see this number 1.24, that's 24%. But if I put money in this strategy, American National is going to charge me a fee of 1.75. This is our current fee for the month of August. Now you'll see there is a max listed here of 4%. And so I have to pay this fee to get this multiplier factor. Some agents say, well, I don't want to pay a fee to put money in this segment. The good news is you don't have to. You can put your money in the value cap strategy and the uncapped with interest rate spread. That's available. But because of this fee, I also have a higher cap. It's at 11.5. So this fee gives me a multiplier and it gives me a higher cap. So let's see, how does this math work for this multiplier? In this example, this is a 10% loss. And so we want to look at our math. And because of the loss, there is a floor of 0. So my crediting rate is going to be 0 in this formula. But let's look at how do we calculate your values. So when I put money in this index segment, we're going to take out our fee of 1.75 on the first day that it goes into the account. So if I were to build this on September 1st, whatever dollar amount is in the segment, I'm going to reduce it by the 1.75% fee. So in this example, we reduced it and my value is $98,250. So I had a cost. And so there's my formula. Now we're going to take that, because of the 0 interest, I didn't earn any interest. And this strategy, I actually lost money of 1.75% because the S&P had a loss. So this is what's different. This is kind of like in the days we sold VUL, you had to pay a fee to buy your portfolios. There is a fee to put money in this index segment. And so this goes, whoa, I don't like fees. And so because we have other index strategies, you have that ability to pick different strategies. But let's go a little further. Let's look at a return. In this example, we're going to use a 10% return from the S&P. And so there is a cap of 11.5, but since we're earning 10, we're going to use the full 10%. We're going to take that 10% return and add the multiplier 24%, gives me a crediting rate now of 12.4%. And so let's take a look at our formula. Here's our value at the beginning of the year minus the fee. Here is my ending value times the 12.4% crediting rate, gives me a ending balance of 110,433, which gives me a net return of 10.43%. So at a 10% return, because of the multiplier less the fee, my net return is 10.43%. So I earned an additional 0.43% interest on my money. So you look at that and say, well, that's not a big deal. If I were in the value cap, I would have got 9.5. If I were in the interest rate spread, I would have got 2.25%. So at this 10% return, this actually gives me the highest payout over those other two index strategies. So now you can kind of see a little difference here based on this type of return. Now, we're going to look at another positive return. This one's bigger. And so we're going to use a 30% return. Because of it's bigger than the cap, we're only going to be able to use 11.5% in our formula. That formula times the 24% multiplier gives me 14.26%. So here's our formula minus the fee. Our ending value is 112,260. That gives me a net return of 12.26. So this 30% return is okay, but compared to the interest rate spread, it's not near as good as that strategy. So this 30% return world, your uncapped with interest rate spread is the best. So this one, this multiplier is good for those, you know, your 8, 9, 10, 11, 12% S&P return worlds, that area. This gives you a pretty good bang for your buck. So that fee of 1.75 allowed me to earn some extra interest over the cap 11.5. Now, let's look at our multiplier plus. And out of the multipliers, this is my favorite one. And the reason being, this one's got a 60% factor. The multiplier, the low multiplier's got a 24% factor. if I'm going to pay a fee, I want big. And 60% is a lot bigger than 24. But I got a bigger fee, 3.45%. This one, the max fee is 6%. I've got the same cap, I got the same floor. So let's look at our formula. Here's the negative. We know that because of the fee, I'm going to lose money because of that fee in this negative. So I'm going to lose 3.45% interest. I lost money. It cost me when the S&P has a loss. That's the downside of the multiplier. But let's look at a 10% gain. With the same figures, we're going to use the 10% as our crediting rate, but we're going to bump it up 60%. The 16% is my crediting rate. And yes, I got a higher fee, but at the end of the day, this 10% return netted me almost 12% interest. So my fee of 3.45% gave me an extra 2% interest. And you say, oh, that's not a big deal. That's how some people look at that. Again, this is a math formula. So at a higher return, which is our next one we're going to look at, that 30%, I got a cap 11.5. Now let's look at my crediting rate. It's now 18.4, and my net is 14.32. So based on the value cap, based on the low multiplier, this outperforms those two strategies, but it doesn't outperform the interest rate spread. So this is how these multipliers work. The multipliers, again, are for those mid area returns that I view like 7% to 12%. Multiplier is pretty dang good for those returns. So questions on multipliers? Well, we disconnected. We lost.
Nope. No, we're here. So this has been good. This is good. So I guess going back, Wayne, to you talking about Jim, who's done $500,000 of premium in the IUL. Is he, to the best of your knowledge, is he just crediting that interest rate spread? Because when you look at that page and the illustration that you referenced of all the different, the S&P over 20 years, that always seems to be the best.
Well,
the best number at the bottom.
Well, it's not anymore.
It's not.
The best number is the multiplier plus, but you got to understand that page doesn't take in the fact that there's a fee.
Okay.
So when I'm doing trying to say, hey, take that average minus the fee of 3.45, and the numbers are real close between those two. The interest rate spread and the high multiplier. And I'm going to have to tell you, Jim is kind of warmed up to this multiplier plus. He's probably doing about a 70-30 split, 70% to the interest rate spread and 30% to the multiplier plus. He has warmed up to it. And one of those reasons is because of the increase in the interest rate spread. So he understands, the company's got, we make investments in bonds. Majority of our investments are in bonds, and to pay these kind of interest rates, it's tough. But even tougher today is the low interest environment we're in. And so one of the things I want to show you is what determines, these cap rates, interest rate spreads, the fees. These are all tied to three big factors: bond portfolio return, short-term interest rates, and the volatility of the stock market. Those three items affect, these caps. Think of annuity interest rates. Our annuity interest rates are low. Well, that's tied to bond portfolio and short-term interest rates. Now, that's affecting our our portfolio of other life products as well. You know, we're at our lowest dividends on whole lives that we've ever had. Our our UL interest rates are low, annuity rates are low. It's this short-term interest environment and bond portfolio is tough right now. And with the virus, I'm not sure we're going to see many changes in that. So throw in your volatility of the stock market. Who would ever thought we would be back up to where we were a year ago? I mean, what we've lost, we've gotten back in the market. It's just crazy right now. So, you know, the IUL, again, you look at it, you got to look at it as a long-term product. This is not a short-term deal. You're going to do this, you're buying this IUL to build this cash pot. And I'm willing to take some risk to possibly earn higher interest than I would than in the fixed account. So, any more questions on the IUL and these index strategies? And
Any questions?
So Wayne, what would you do as far as yourself? You have somebody that has $250,000 life policy with they want to spend $500 a month. How would you allocate those?
Today, my recommendation is I would do 30% in the Multiplier Plus. I would do 35% in the interest rate spread and 35% in the value cap. I don't use the low multiplier. The low multiplier has got a 24% multiplier. If I were to double that, that gives me 48%. And if I took the fee of 1.75 and I double that, that gives me a fee of 3.5. That 3.5 fee is greater than my 60% multiplier of 3.45. So when I said earlier, I like the Multiplier Plus because it gives the biggest bang for the expense. And that's because that 60% multiplier, to me, gives you the better deal. Even though the fee's higher, you know, some people look at fees only and say, well, if I'm going to pay a fee, I only want to pay 1.75. I don't want to pay 3.45. Well, you get what you pay for. You pay a little more, the 3.45, I get a 60% multiplier. And again, if I'm going to use the multiplier, I like the Multiplier Plus, the 60%. So I'm putting money in 3 different index strategies. That's my recommendation today. And I don't see it changing.
Thank you.
Hey, Wayne, does the Multiplier Plus, does that also have a max fee of 4%?
On the fee, it's 6%.
Oh, it's 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, we
Good.
are almost up till noon. You got a couple things you can
I
share
do.
with us on the, okay.
I do on the single premium. Let me stop sharing on this one. And I've got another one I want to share here. Hold on. Up. Bear with me. I don't know how I lost it. I'm going to have to open it up again. So, you know, it's kind of interesting with this technology. All right, there it is. Now, let me get back to it. And share my screen. Okay, here we go. Can y'all see single premium whole life interest and
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. So we've reintroduced the single premium whole life. The big change, it's got the new mortality table. And so I just want to go through a couple of items on the key features of the single premium. It's a guaranteed cash value product, guaranteed to 121. We do have surrender charges. You say, hey, it's single premium whole life. How does it have surrender charges? Well, there's a term interest sensitive. And you see interest sensitive, that's really a UL chassis. Single premium whole life is really a universal life, but it's got guaranteed cash value. That makes it different. So there is a surrender charge. It's a 12-year surrender charge schedule. So I call it a modified UL, but looks like whole life. Underwriting's the same. We're going to underwrite what's called the net amount at risk, which is the amount of life insurance that you're applying for minus your single premium. We only underwrite it for that difference. And basically, we will take you as it's an issue or decline. There's no ratings on it. We take basically up to table 4 as standard. So it's basically you're either a nicotine or non-nicotine user. That's the only difference in male and female. So there's no preferred class or anything like that. It's very simple, and it's very simple underwriting. Death benefits, kind of interesting because of the new mortality table. You see a lot higher early year death benefits that decreases over time. That is what's called a corridor effect. I will tell you, this is the only life insurance policy that your first year accumulation account value is equal or greater than your premium you paid in. Any other life insurance, your value is always less. But because of this design with this account value causes these death benefits to be higher. And each year as we go in the future, it grades down till it actually reaches the amount of life insurance you applied for. So that's kind of confusing for some agents. But please understand, if the insured dies, we're going to pay that higher death benefit. But it is a corridor factor, and it's kind of reverse compared to a IUL. In the IUL, you may see the death benefit increase on the option A in the later years. That's because your cash value is getting close to the death benefit. Please understand the IRS requires that the death benefit exceeds your accumulation value by a certain percentage, and that's called a corridor effect. So we get questions about the early death benefits being higher, and so it's even, you see it more in this product than our previous because of the new mortality. So here's our bands. This is one of the big changes in band 2. This is for ages 40 to 80. We will take up to $1 million of premium. So we have bumped up the amount of premium we can take in the single premium whole life. Below, this age 39, you have to, 49 is the amount of premiums. We don't sell hardly any single premiums to 40-year-olds. It's mainly 65 and above is our marketplace. But from 81 to 85, the max is 750. That's still an increase over our last product that was at 650. So we've gotten bigger premium increases. Backdating allowed on the single premium whole life. So your age is what you're going to get. You don't have any choice. This really comes into play when we get somebody that's 85, but they're in their last 6 months of their age year, and they're 86. That person cannot buy single premium whole life. So just keep that in mind. We don't backdate. So we can't take that person. So if you got anybody that's 85 years old and they're in the first 6 months, you need to go tell them you can't buy life insurance at this date on. So let's go write them right now. But please be aware, because of COVID, we're not taking 81s to 85s today. And that's just underwriting rules because of COVID. We've shut down these older ages. So once that releases, then we'll have a group of people to talk to. So any questions on single premium whole life? Pretty simple. Illustrate it. Oh, the good news, single premium whole life is in e-app. So you can apply for it just like any other life product. Because we've now brought back the single premium whole life, we're reinstalling the UL Rescue program that's tied to the single premium whole life. We'll be sending out an update on that rescue program for older UL products that people want to, quit paying premium on and just have a paid up policy. So I'll open this up for any questions.
Yeah, so no, doesn't seem like there's really, other than the mortality, doesn't really seem, what's the interest rates on the single premium?
That's like 3%.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the guarantee.
Guarantees 2%. Here it is.
Yeah,
Minimum guarantee interest rates 2%.
right.
Now we may be at 2.75 around there.
Mhm.
Yeah, interest rate to me is not why you're selling this product. To me, this is, and we'll go back to the front. This is a wealth transfer type product. I like the example of people that have money sitting in a CD that they want to leave to their grandkids, and they're insurable. Let's take that money from the CD and buy a death benefit. And now you're going to be able to pass that money at a greater rate, income tax free. And I no longer have to pay income tax on my interest earnings, the little that I'm getting in those CDs. It's just to me, a great presentation of wealth transfer.
Mhm.
And, you may run into somebody that's uninsurable. Then get annuity form in the same concept. So for non-qualified money sitting in CDs, I think the single premium is a great product to look at first before you settle in on an annuity, because your death benefit is payable income tax free to the beneficiary, where that annuity, your beneficiary has to pay income tax on any interest earnings that are paid to them. So you take out that taxation part with the life insurance death benefit.
Yep.
Again, wealth transfer is a big, big deal.
Well, I tell you, for those of you, if anybody would can write $1 million single premium case between now and the end of the year, I'll give you a $50 gift card, and Brian Schaefer will match it. So that challenge is out there for any $1 million case. That's premium now.
Yeah, and I will tell you, we'll get a case. With our old single premium whole life, we had a situation where a rancher, he had 3 daughters, and he wanted to leave $500,000 worth of life insurance to each of his daughters, and he wanted to pay it up right up front. He wanted to do a single premium. So he ended up buying 3 single premium whole life policies, and the total premium exceeded our maximums between the 3. Now, each individual policy was within our maximum, but the agent ended up writing 3 apps. The death benefits were $1 million each, and the premium was like 600,000 on each of them. So it was about 1.8 million in premium for this one individual. And as a company, we took it because they split it up in 3 policies and had 3 different beneficiaries. So it's kind of interesting deal. So 1.8 million in premium basically on one case we took. So
All right, fine. If we get 1.8, then I'll bump that to 100, and Brian Schaefer will double it, so that'll be 300. So
there you
challenges
go.
out there.
They do happen.
Yeah, I know they do. They are out there. Well, listen, Wayne, thank you. Thank you for your time. That was very helpful.
You're
Just
welcome.
again, the reminder, excuse me, especially on the index, a lot of moving parts with that contract. So I think it's good for us to revisit that and get that more clear and give us, more confidence when we're, building out a plan for our clients and going over that with them. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
And
Brian, Jennifer,
guys,
yeah,
y'all can call me or email me with any questions anytime.
awesome. We know we can, Wayne. You're great in helping with the field, so we appreciate that. Well, Brian, Jen, thanks for joining us. Good to see you guys. Good to see everybody. And stay tuned. We'll be probably maybe setting that up, take you up on that the annual statement training. I think that would be good.
Okay.
So we might be setting that up in the real near future, Wayne. So
All right.
all right. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest
All
of
right.
your day.
Bye-bye, guys.